All right. Full order, the airport advisory board meeting for March 11th, 2026. Good session. On the roll call, we got everybody here, with the exception of Tim Conrad, who has an excused absence, and Alan Davis. I don't know where he's at. And we have Pat is online.
Yep.
So move on from there. Let me see. Pledge of allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And three, all conflicts of interest. Anybody in the bill have anything they want to declare today? We need to item 4, change the agenda. Yeah, anything on the road. Item 5, approve minutes of previous meeting, which is the minutes from February 11th, 2026 meeting. Do I have somebody make a motion? Move to approve the meeting. Somebody second.
I second it.
All in favor? Aye. Resolution carried. Item 6, move on to staff reports and updates from the airport director and staff.
Absolutely. So the big thing that's happened over the last week, we just completed our annual FAA 139 inspection. They were here Monday and Tuesday. This week, going through everything. It was our full audit where they're going through training records, fueling. We have to do our ARF drill, inspecting all the ARF equipment, runway safety areas, basically everything to do with the airport in great detail. So we passed with flying colors. The only discrepancy that he wrote up for us was actually more of a recommendation. It was adding the new ARF road that cuts from November to runway 6 and 24 right in front of our fire station. There was a new stop sign installed there, which is essentially the hold short for ground vehicles entering the runway. There needs to be a little sign under the stop sign that says contact ATC beyond this point. So it was just something additional. So he's writing that up as a recommendation. Everything else went fantastic. So he said he was very happy, very proud of how our airport looks. It's definitely one of the cleaner airports they've been to as far as maintenance and the attention to detail on all of our logs and stuff. So it was pretty cool to hear that from them. So we should have our official report back from them in the next 30 days or so, but definitely proud of our guys for doing that. So both of our duty managers were present. Jesse and Luke were there and conducted the inspection with us as well. So definitely kudos to those guys because they pull it off. Absolutely. We are planning on starting construction of the viewing center foundation and the grass runway, kind of the rough grading of our turf runway this spring. Just kind of waiting for a little bit of the weather to pass through, and we'll work with some of the moisture and stuff, start stripping the topsoil and getting the rough grading in. With the 180 and 185 club coming in August, we're trying to not time it specifically for that event, but just getting the final design for the irrigation that's going to go out there to water the runway. We might be installing that later this year rather than on the early side. So we're likely going to have the runway completely graded in and usable. It'll be essentially a dirt runway for the middle part of summer. And then we'll look at getting the irrigation and getting that seeded going into winter. So the snow can sit on that seed and let it germinate. It'll make it come through stronger next spring. And we'll definitely have a nice product come next spring. So excited to get going on that here. Still continuing our final design on Taxiway Alpha, just getting everything nailed down as far as the little details of that. We're still looking at later this year, September-ish construction for that. We should be starting construction. I think we're looking at April, May for the lighting project for 2120, swapping out the lights and pulling in the new conductor for 2120, getting the new LED pappies put in and the new regulators in the vault for runway 624 in November. So we'll have all the new regulators that can do the internal testing and stuff on those. Outside of that, still working on the draft RFP, just going through all the language on that. We're looking to advertise that hopefully in the next 45 days here is when we'd be advertising the RFP for that north side development area. Outside of that, it's just been business as usual. I can answer any other questions if you have any.
Last month, I think it was last month, you mentioned something being done to runway 2 was gonna let us have a lower minimum on the approach.
Yes, so the runway to Pappy is going to move further down the runway by about 170 feet to allow the touchdown zone elevation to be correct and not non-standard. So we should get lower minimums on runway 2 with that. So that was an excellent recommendation by Dave Parker with the FAA. He came in and said, well, you're already putting in the new one. He goes, if you move it, yours is technically non-standard. Let's get it pushed down further and we'll be able to drop your minimum. So they're ready to fast track that and get that updated on the charts. I don't know for sure. They haven't told us. They just said we'll definitely get lower minimums for 2. So yeah, that'll be really nice.
Make it longer then. Make it longer.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
More practical terms. So longer meaning longer runway, you can extend it.
No, well, eventually the runway could get longer during the decoupling on there, but as far as the Pappy moving further down, it just relocates it where it is on the runway. So the glide slope brings you into you'll be at a different elevation at your touchdown zone on the same point at the runway. So it basically allows lower minimums. So you have lower obstacle clearance further out. It just makes it more standard as far as your glide path into runway 2.
For instrument approaches.
Yeah.
To change anything in the environment where you're just noticing it more, it's just not, doesn't change anything.
No, as far as someone watching an airplane land, it would look identical. It's more or less
But you can get lower to the ground.
before you go around.
Approach, depending on if the weather is low to the ground, you can still use the runway 2 approach. The winds are favorable versus having to go to the other runway because.
I see. I mean, you'd be able to do that lower.
Better utilize runway 2 basically.
Right. So you're just standardizing it across runways. So it's basically you can approach the same lower.
But this one,
Yeah.
It'll be better than this.
It'll allow you to get a better chance of making it through the weather before you'd have to go mist and try again or try a different airport. Yeah. Different runway. Yeah.
Else, any question? Moving on, item 7, Airport Association updates, Harry, you're up.
Yeah, we had a meeting last night and we brought things up to date. Mike Kincaid had a pretty good stuff that he put on, and then we had a presentation by the 180, 185 Association out of Bend, Oregon. And they want to have a fly-in here and a convention basically from the 2nd of August through the 7th. And so we're trying to accommodate them. Gasson is working with them, I'm working with them, and Mike and Kate's working with them. And so we're trying to get everything put together. We're going to give them a pancake breakfast on the first morning, and then they're going to spend a lot of time at Coeur d'Alene Resort because that's where they like to spend the money. So
They got 185s.
yeah, they're 180, 185, and they're coming out of Canada, they're coming out of all Florida, they're coming from all over the place. There's supposed to be 100 of them here.
Oh, man.
So Gasson's got the parking all figured out, I hope.
Absolutely.
He's got a good handle on that. And so we're trying to get a lot of the pilots involved in it they want to do some backcountry stuff. They're gonna fly from McCall or from Johnson Creek up to here. They're gonna spend the Sunday night there and then come in Monday here. And then we'll have a Mike Kate, I think, is gonna put on a little presentation for them. And then they're gonna fly the next day up to, no, they're going up to Sandpoint for a tour of Dahar up there on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, they're gonna go to, Kavanaugh Bay. So we're trying to help them out with that, on getting in and out of there and what the patterns are. Mike's gonna put something together for that. So it's gonna be pretty busy this year, that way, well, at least August. And, like Gasson said, he's working on a viewing center over there. We're trying to get that thing going, and I think that probably we'll do the runway first, and get that out of the way.
Depend. We're start taking down the old foundation first and getting it all stockpiled over there. So
Yeah.
it's easy to go back up.
Yep. So, that's moving along. And, we have a tour of Dahar for our group on the 27th of this month. So we're gonna have a group up there going through the Dahar factory to tour that on. That's gonna be on a Friday, the 27th at 12 o'clock at the main office there at Kodiak. And that is far as we got. Well, pretty good. Rachel had stuff with medical stuff going on, so. That's about all I have.
Didn't she say that one of the items she's gonna have with this group is going to be a
Oh, yeah.
backcountry medicine?
Yeah, we're gonna have a backcountry first aid class, so it's more or less for and Shep's gonna put that on, I think. And so it's basically for what to do in case you get in that aircraft accident out in the backwoods, and you basically first aid and splints and stop bleeding and all that kind of stuff. So it's don't panic. So they think with most. So yeah, they're gonna have class. It's gonna be probably on Sunday. They're gonna have that one Sunday afternoon late. So that's gonna be interesting. And then they're gonna have an auction. They're gonna have a lot of our sponsored participants, some of which will be Garmin and Flight Insurance and Flight Designs and Lightspeed and Essex and so on and so forth. So they're gonna have a pretty good show, I think, of it. They're putting a lot into it. So, but we'll probably get some invitation down to they have a tech night on Wednesday, the 5th of August, down at the Fort Lane Resort. They have a big room rented down there, so that's going to be interesting. So we might have some CFI, what's something on it we can't for backcountry stuff.
Yeah, I think they were looking for CFIs to help with backcountry flying participation. We find some more CFIs.
Steve over here.
There you go. Steve, you go out there and go to the airport and find some work. They're looking for volunteers too, they mentioned.
Yeah.
Because they need everything from drivers, just people.
Yeah.
To help with the logistics around here.
Right, and I'm trying to get a hold of the CAP to see if they will help us. And then they were pretty impressed with last night was Mike's dehumidifier for his aircraft engines. And so we're gonna get I'm gonna try to get the CAP guys to build the kits, and then they're gonna sell them and make some money for the CAP on that. So that should be an interesting project.
What's the dates again, Jim?
The August 2nd through the 7th.
Technically the 3rd. Because they'll be down in Johnson.
Yeah,
They'll be down. But you might see.
And then we won't even see them Wednesday. They have to fly out to Kavanaugh, so they'll be out.
You lose them?
Yep. You took a picture.
I took a picture of his.
Oh, okay.
So
Have you guys figured out who's mad at the phones that week for noise complaints?
It's an auto answer. That'll be Jesse. We're gonna have a headset. It'll be awesome.
we're not gonna have any complaints, right?
Yeah.
When I went to that meeting last night, Rachel, I can add your comments.
Sure, go ahead.
Rachel had some interesting information. One of the things that Mike likes to do with those meetings is he likes to examine recent aviation incidents. To analyze for safety issues. And he talked about that Tennessee fly girl incident, which I think everybody was aware of. Something I wasn't aware of, and Rachel brought it up. Is the autopsy on that gal, she was so loaded up with
Antidepressants.
antidepressants, just all kinds of stuff that were just
Ill-
totally
awful.
contraindicated, for flying. If you'd gone to the FAA, they would have said, no, there's no way in the world you can fly with it. But she said, ironically, for the symptoms that she was treating, if she'd gone to an AME and been absolutely honest about it, there were medications that she could have been on that would have been legal and would have allowed her to fly.
There was about 5 of them that were.
Oh, yeah, she hadn't been stoned as a gopher when she was up there flying that airplane.
Yeah.
It's amazing that she was even functional. And I don't know if any of that came out in the NTSB information.
Oh, yeah, I think it did.
But the other thing she said that was interesting, she was talking about these kids that got caught up in all the COVID madness back in 2020, where schools were shut down, they were sent home, homeschool and whatnot. She says now they're finding that kids out of that generation that are coming into aviation are having issues. Serious emotional issues.
They're having issues with paying attention to what's going on, basically. Which is scary. They have no situational awareness of what's happening.
And that's just, I think, a generational attention span.
Yeah.
That was just my son.
No. And I thought it was interesting because the way she presented it seemed to be fairly common among kids that age, coming into it. In general. As it affects us. Why? Okay, Harry, anything else?
I can't think of any. We still have hats for sale if you guys want to buy any hats.
All right, moving on, to our regular business item A. We were gonna have a vote on the revised standards to the Board of County Commissioners. I presume everybody's had a chance to roll through those, and if there's any questions, concerns, changes you think could be made, now would be the time to bring them up. So I'm gonna leave that open for discussion. Maybe we move from left to right here, start with Dale, anything in there that you saw that gave you concern?
I was on the planning committee for this, so I looked it over already. Looks all right to me.
Okay, I'm talking about the standards, not the rate review.
Oh, no, I agree with that also.
Okay. Larry?
I have one question that I'd like to find out info about. and it's Parking around in derelict airplanes. Do we have any time limit on that? Let me use, for example, those airplanes that are parked out there just by D3. 3 of them don't have engines.
Right.
I don't know if any of them are registered. And they've been out there for several months already.
Those are likely going to be changing here. They all belong there. They were supposed to be short-term project parking spots for no limits here. So now that he's not a base tenant, that's going to be changing here. But as far as the minimum standards with the derelict,
I just think we ought to put some kind of 30 days.
technically, I mean, especially for our ramps, everything has to be airworthy. You're not allowed to have a non-airworthy airplane on the ramp. So, for instance, this Piper Cherokee that's over on the east ramp, we've been in contact with him multiple times and the family and everything, trying to get that moved, fixed. You have 30 days to get it airworthy or get it moved. So we can kind of mirror that same language with derelict airplanes. I mean, it needs to define derelict versus like a project, they're an abandoned versus something that is going to be flyable or like storage of someone's project. Like we understand that 100%. But I agree, we could add some time that, 30-day or.
But there ought to be some 30 days or 60 days or some kind of a time limit in there that it's now you can act. It's and also, do they pay so much a month for that?
Yeah, they pay the normal monthly tie down for each one of those.
And possibly we could raise the rate after like 60 days or something like that.
Yeah, and those are not supposed that actually, because that's not an official parking area that's like improved for any kind of safety, nothing that's over there was supposed to be ran over there or taxied under power. It's supposed to be towed in and out. So that was kind of the other deal with No Limits was everything had to be towed in and out. Like that's where he could put non-flyers to open up room on the front ramp for flying airplanes.
Okay, yeah, that's the only thing I had.
Yeah.
Okay. Or are we gonna need to reconvene and focus some language for that, which should be.
It's up to we can do the modification
After
and send it down there with that language as long as you're okay with how we define that 30-day period if that's what we vote on. Or we can
30 days. I just thought they're on some kind of time.
right, or we can bring it back once we have the new language too. So that's totally up to you guys what you're comfortable with.
I think maybe we want to discuss that because it's a little bit of.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that would be okay sending on to the BCC.
Mhm.
Thanks, opportunity to have discussions.
Sometimes those things cut both ways also. You don't want somebody saying, well, I've got 30 days. Or I've got 60 days or 90 days for the rules, I keep it here now. Because you don't want, those things cut both ways.
And
We can bring that back with the group and reconvene. Absolutely.
Don't you have a provision if it's not airworthy, you can do something?
We do, but it specifically talks about our transient ramps.
Okay.
So, speaking
Theoretically, you could get them on the not airworthiness part of it instead of
Right.
add more language for the 30 days or whatever.
Essentially, yes.
Enforcement.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, and these agreements were written as a supplement to a base tenant. So that's changing, obviously.
that was another issue too that I
Yeah.
thought it's like, it's like somebody that's based here,
Mhm.
which should be treated differently than say somebody from Spokane brings their airplane out there.
And just leaves it.
There and leaves.
Correct.
It's like,
Definitely.
Practically speaking, how much of that is.
Not much, honestly. I think we've had over my time one aircraft, and it's been that Cherokee most of the time over there that's actually been abandoned until we figured out what was happening with it. But we really haven't had an issue with people dropping off airplanes here and just leaving. Yeah, or not being able to get in contact with someone.
Technically, every aircraft on here could be airworthy. In progress of being modified or.
Right. Unless you have some agreement that has a yard that is for the salvage of aircraft or something like that. Yeah.
Otherwise, if somebody. Doesn't have it.
Yeah.
It really doesn't. I mean, technically, by the act of legally.
Right. Technically, per the standards, you can't come here like with an airplane on the ramp, pull the engine and do an overhaul on the transit ramp. That has to be done like in a hangar or on a leasehold somewhere.
Okay, so there shouldn't be anything on the ramp anyway. That
Is non-airworthy.
operational. So this by
Correct.
very nature of not being operational, you don't need.
Right.
You can enforce the
Correct.
provision.
I mean, we could say that is a ramp. I mean, it's not an official ramp, but it is a ramp.
I've seen
It is
there.
it's an auxiliary ramp. Yeah.
Fly away.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So we could use that provision as well.
So we need to make any modification. on things.
I think we would be covered. We can make an enforcement on that if we did not have a prior arrangement or agreement with an airplane. Yes, it would cover that.
What about circumstance where you have an airplane, say abandoned in a hangar? I've seen it.
I don't know that there's any language about in a hangar. That would run into other issues because we don't own the hangars. We own the real property, but not the structure itself. So that would be more of like an abatement and lien process and eviction on the owner of the hangar to abate something
Doesn't
out of the
the
hangar.
FAA say something about that, about hangars? On
I mean, they
airports?
say how hangars are supposed to be used, but once again, I mean, it falls under, is it a project? I mean, someone could have a 10-year project going in somewhere, like it's, yeah. So yeah, I'll have it done in a year.
Two. So they will with the standards and when presented to CC. You're the legal aid, we know you went through it with fine.
I was on the, was ruined, I had my say, you didn't get any public comment or anything.
No,
Yeah, okay.
not on the second round.
I'm sure Wes wants to do it, and too much of that stuff. But it's been plenty of-
I bet you that thing, we haven't done the community, and I think it's good. We got rid of a lot of superfluous crap that shouldn't have been in it.
really the whole language you can make. You know, eliminating some redundant provisions in here. Okay, well, I say we put it to a vote. Can we adopt these and send them to the BOCC as is? Can I get a motion from someone?
I make that motion.
Second, and a second. You know, right there. Okay, oh, I'm sorry. That's. Okay, all in favor of sending the revised standards to the BOCC for approval? Say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Carried by acclamation. You're gonna have to get that less than fine. Well,
Yeah, you have 30 days.
back. Okay, item B, time for the annual fees adjustment committee. I think everybody got the handout with the proposed fee structure and calculation of the certificate fees for the year. Kim, do you want to take this from here and explain what's going on?
I can start yet with the CPI. So since we made our revisions, I just wanted to show you the calculations, the table that I pulled from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, using the annual column, calculate then out to the CPI based on the annual West BC section. And then so that rest of that just shows you the 5-year rolling average in the years. So if you go down to the bottom section, you have the 2026, all of the annual CPIs, and then the calculations for the 5-year average. So it comes out to 0.045038 for the 5-year rolling average for 2026. Next is the table showing the current rates and the additional that would be added to it. And if the full CPI is added to the current rates, 2026 could be 0.274 for private, commercial aeronautical 0.342, and non-aeronautical ground 0.683.
Couple of comments, if I could. First one through this, when it came with private, we're still at a sizable increase compared to current inflation. Since 2022, we've seen the CPI come down 4.2%, 2.6%, about 2.6% this year.
Right.
But of course, since it's still in the 5-year, we've got that 8% increase from 2022 is still escalating. Excuse me, escalating CPI increase higher than what we otherwise would think it would be, but it's still, working with the premise that we're going to smooth these averages out over time. And so these rates, the private ground, commercial ground, and non-aeronautical ground will apply to leases originated this year, plus any that are up for renewal.
Correct, after their 5-year renewal.
2022 is going to hamstring us here for another couple of years, and I'm going to see it shift more downward.
Right.
That's count.
Sure.
And applying the, excuse me, I don't know, yeah, so you want to discuss the airport fee?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as you guys know, we started the another subcommittee from the advisory board for the fees. Not only over the last couple of years, we've rolled right up on needing to make our annual adjustment. The CPI is all we really talk about, and then we move on. So, I recommended kind of the end of last year that we form this committee to really dive into all of our fees. Look at the ones we're not using at all and get them out of there, simplify it, reevaluate some of the fees. There are lots of fees in here that hadn't been touched in like 15 years. They were the same fee. So just kind of doing a general update. A lot of these we didn't even touch. But just making sure that we're staying just fair, equitable to everyone, and only charging for the services we provide, equal to the services we provide, not overcharging for anything. We did a really good job of deep diving into surrounding regional airports that operate, same size, same type of business, everything as Coeur d'Alene, to be comparable, and in a lot of ways still less. I mean, we want to be, the desirable place, which we are. So we definitely didn't want to be the lowest, but we don't want to be the highest either. So or in the high category. So we hit a little bit lower than most of the airports around us on the different fees. So I can kind of go through the ones I know that we highlighted here. Under the lease rate area, this development section, single unit, multi-unit, 5 to 25 acres, that's always something that was practiced but never in our fee schedule officially. So I thought this year we would actually put that in there just so it's transparent and clear. Like that went unchanged. I just wanted to actually memorialize it in our fee schedule so it's in front of everyone. So these are essentially just single unit. You're building a 60 by 60 on one little lot. You get 50% off your annual rate for the first year, and then it goes to the full rate, whether it be the private, commercial, or non-aero. Multi-unit, putting in like different condo structures and everything, it's 24 months, 50% of the annual rate rather than the first year. The 5 and 25 acres, this kind of applies to larger developments on the airport when we're doing like development, multi-unit developments, businesses, commercial, FBO, stuff like that. 5 to 25 acres, it's at 5 cents until the COI phase. So until the certificate of occupancy is issued on the first phase of the first piece of that project, then it goes to the full rate. And then 26 acres plus at a penny per square foot. So essentially it's during the construction. While it's being built, it's at that rate. As soon as they get their certificate of occupancy, it goes to the full rate on there, unless otherwise negotiated. T-hanger rental, we kept that at the $350. To be completely honest, these are the little fourplex accounting T-hangers we have over on the alphas over here. The buildings themselves are in poor shape. Too much of a snow load gets on there and the doors don't even like to open. So we've had engineers look at it. They tell us they likely won't fail, but at some point we're gonna have to cut our losses. And we just want to be a good steward to those guys that are in there, give them a good like 12 months notice, be like, within a year, we need you out of here. We'll likely sell off or tear down that building and let that just be another 1 or 2 builder lots there on that taxi lane.
So what's the order of life do you think you
Not much, honestly. The guys are like it. They need rehab. Like you would have to go in there and essentially completely rebuild the hangars, equivalent to building a new fourplex T-hanger there. So, which is not, it's the only one we do that. We're not interested in really being in the T-hanger business. There's plenty of other T-hangers here on the field. So, that'll likely just, like I said, go to a lot or 2 that someone can build little 50 by 50 or 40 by 50 on. The aircraft rescue and firefighting standby, that went up to 400 for the standby rate. That's not for an emergency. Anything emergent, we respond to. This is for the VIP standbys. So when Kim Kardashian's here or whatever, this is the standby for that, when they want us to have fire standing by in bunker gear, sitting on the side of the runway when they land and then going away when they're done. So
that's the thing.
It is a thing. Or if you have more than 30 seats, then we're on standby for that when they come in.
When
So
was the last time you had to do?
we do it pretty often, actually. Mhm. Yeah. We just kept the lease administrative fee. There was a bunch of other fees, like lease origination fees, that were, some of them were pretty outrageous. Like if you wanted to have a flight school here or something like that, or you were doing any kind of commercial activity, it was like $1,200 to $1,500 just to start the lease with us. It wasn't something we practiced really, so it was one of those that were just like the lease administrative fee is what we're going to stick with the lease, the standard lease application fee. The administrative fees, if we're preparing a new lease document, like there's a name change, it's physically going down to the VOCC, basically all the staff time to administratively update the lease or change the lease and send it through the board downtown. Fuel flowages, we kept the same at 9 cents for 100 low lead, 12 cents for jet. We did add MoGas unleaded to that, along with the self-fueling fee. That's always been a part of our minimum standards, talking about self-fueling permits and fees, but we've never had a self-fueling permit per se. But where this came up was we had the committee had a pretty big talk about the basically being fair and equitable. So for instance, if let's say I'm leasing a hangar for my RV-12 from Frank, I could go buy fuel and have 20 gallons, 30 gallons of fuel in dump cans from the Exxon in my plane, fly out of his hangar, keep my, I'm paying him money, and he's paying the county a lease, but essentially I'm using the airport for $0. I'm not paying Coeur d'Alene Airport anything to keep my plane here, fuel my airplane, and fly my airplane here. Where, Parker or anyone else that has their own fuel, Hagedon has their own fuel, they're paying us fuel flowage to bring that fuel onto the airport, keep it here, and fuel their airplanes with it. So there's a lot of guys that just have 10 gallons of dump cans here that they do go fill up just with MoGas outside. So rather than, we tried to think of a simple mechanism, we're not going to track down like every time you bring 5 gallons here, you have to come pay us $2. Like that's not anything we want to do. But just to say, most people are not even going to hardly flow 50. Those guys don't flow 55 gallons hardly through their airplanes in a year. So if you're storing fuel, MoGas from off the field, it's a $25 fee. Outside of that, if you have, there are guys that do have like a 200 gallon or 300 gallon little trailer that they pull over, bring from outside the fence, that they're running MoGas, then they can pay flowage on that if they're bringing that through. And they've said that's fine. They said that's not a problem at all. So basically, when asked about this, it shows that no matter what kind of user you are paying something, and it's proportional to the operation you're doing, essentially. So that's kind of where that came from. The staff costs, we just updated those numbers to show what the fully loaded value of that cost. This doesn't really come into play except for very rare instances, like the insurance of the crash twin outside the office here wanted to pay to have operations staff sit on it for the night. So while the NTSB conducted their investigation, so they actually need some kind of a loaded cost to invoice based on that. So that's where that comes from. We don't invoice people to go help them at all. Rental car didn't change. That's still at 5 cents, or sorry, 5%. The tower fee, which was the tower fee, that did not change. It's still $10 per landing, but we changed the name of it to a facility fee instead of a tower fee. The tower fee in the Vector, the billing service, that's not really a normal fee you would see. You would see a facility fee. The tower fees are always wrapped into your facility fee. So when they invoiced it, these guys would get their invoice and it would say miscellaneous, which doesn't say anything. It doesn't say they're just like, so they would call like, what is that? It's a tower fee. Oh, okay. And they're fine, but it's time consuming and it's confusing for them. So changing it to a facility fee says just that. It'll be the facility fee. Yeah. The The rates, we went up slightly on the weights on each category. I think the biggest one was on the 75,000 and up. We went up about 50 cents from our previous rate. These are still under what most of the airports are around us. I know Sun Valley is updating their fee schedule right now, and they're going to exceed these by a decent amount. So we want to be fair, but be conscious of the services we provide and the cost of what it takes to do that here. So, and then probably the biggest change we made is actually in the airport's overnight parking schedule. It was a extremely outdated matrix that was from a lot of years ago that went by weight, and it basically made it to where like 0 to 10,000 pounds pays $6. So we'd have a guy in a Super Cub, which okay, $6, $6 to $10, perfect. But you could leave your TBM out there for $6 a night, right? Where that wouldn't be captured as a turbine aircraft there. So most of the airports are switching to the type of aircraft, and then they're still sticking with a weight category for the turbojet stuff. So single engine piston, $10 a night is what we went with. The monthly is taking the nightly and doing a 75% discount on that essentially. So if you pay per the month, that's what it goes to. The annual is obviously just that 75 times 12. And then if you pay the annual all up front at the beginning of the season, you get another 20% discount on that. So that shows that column. It breaks it down all the way across. We don't have a lot of annual tie down people. Most of them are here just for a season. So they would fall under the monthly category. But breaking it down to single piston turbine, twin piston turbine, jet, weight, and then helicopter, rather than the weight breakdown on there. So I think on our old schedule, it was a 737 or, MD 87 can park on the ramp for $125 a day, which is like 10% of what they would pay at any other airport. So it was just an old fee. They just hadn't been reviewed or looked at. So
Monthly is like 7 days.
what's that?
The monthly rate's like 7 days.
Essentially taking the nightly, multiplying it by 30 days, and then putting a 75% discount on that is how we came up with the monthly. They're definitely not going to pay the 10 times 33,000 for something pistons. So, but other than that, yes. So actually, I did forget about that because it's not on here anymore. The new airport compliance manual that just came out February 20th does not allow us to bill Forest Service, government, or contract government aircraft landing fees or overnight fees anymore. So where they were at that $1 per 1,000 pounds, now they're nothing. So the only thing they pay is fuel flowage, essentially. And that's only if they flow the fuel from they would only be paying it if they buy it from a vendor here. So being Stancraft, they're paying the airport fuel flowage. They buy the fuel from them. They're in a sense paying fuel flowage. But if they bring their own tanker on, like, Heliquest or any of those guys bring their tanker with the Blackhawk, we can't even levy fuel flowage against that. So that's something pretty new. I was on a pretty in-depth call with all the airports of the region here, and it basically very new. Yep. So it's always kind of been there, but it was not well defined. That's actually one of the grant assurances. Grant Assurance 27 says that government aircraft are exempt, but it was more military. Like it was worded like it only applied to military. And then there has been issues from what I understand on the call. There was multiple other airports that were really still charging, which, that's kind of what we corrected a couple of years ago here. But there were, Erickson and Colson were getting these outrageous bills for operating. And they're providing firefighting service. I'm all for supporting those guys. If we can make our money in other areas too. So they memorialized that in the ACM update this year. So yeah, that is it
for years.
Right.
Probably the first 15 years that year we did. Forest Service was the one who said, look, you guys should build these guys your contract. That's what we started doing. That's a significant chunk of money.
It is. Oh yeah, absolutely. And we can still, they're still paying for their land leases, those types of things. It's just when they're coming in from out of town, they're not paying for each landing like they would. So
So much revenue.
it depends. I mean, if you look at last year, it was probably around $40,000 in landing fees, but we did 582 heavy tanker landings last year. The year before that, we did 52. So it's kind of hard to say. Last year it was significant. The year before, I mean, it's totally fluctuates based on the fire season we're going to get. I mean, if it doesn't rain a lot in May and June, we're going to have a pretty significant one this year. But
as far as like actually wear and tear on the runway, it's probably a pretty significant use.
absolutely, as far as the user, they're the ones that are beating it up. So it's kind of a bummer in that regard. One of the heaviest impacts on the airport, but that is the caveat of accepting government money. Essentially, they're like, we're giving you $4 million to resurface your runway. Our government aircraft can land there without paying. So,
Well, you show that they're beating it up and deteriorating, they're gonna come in and rebuild the runway and.
absolutely, they're going to be taking care of it. Yeah,
So they're putting it right. It's just that you have to deal with it.
What you mean is we're putting the bill, or
They're not paying
Yeah.
landing fees either.
our tax dollars.
say that again.
They will be taking-
No landing fees, no overnight. So we used to get, I think it was around $50 a night for overnight tankers just to be parked here. And when they would park out on the ramp, in addition to the landings, and then, they would cut us a check for 10, 15 grand a season. That's gone. So, we'll make it up in other places. I mean, we're growing in other places. Our leases are growing. We're having more people lease property. I mean, we're definitely okay as the airport, but that is why that is not in there
If they
anymore.
are, it's gonna be, recommendations. They're government.
Correct. Yep.
It's just some free money.
Yep. Exactly. But I can answer any other questions, or this would
Free money.
no such
You know,
thing.
if you need it's free. It's free.
What's all this for the parking stuff leased?
So right now, we have a cash box, and we have every morning part of our operations morning inspection. They go out and write down the tail numbers, and so we keep track of that. The hard part is who pays and who doesn't. We do have a lot of people that don't pay. They don't put cash in there, or they don't fill out the envelope. There's like an envelope that's blank with cash in it. So it's like, well, which one did that belong to? So one of the options was Vector, the place that does our landing fee billing. They can do tie down billing now as well, but it's still ADSB based, which still misses a significant amount of small or light users that don't come in here with ADSB. So, and they charge a 21% fee on that $10. So now we're back down to getting almost the rate we were before. So, in my eyes, we're already set up and implementing our normal tie downs. What I want to do is actually get rid of the cash boxes and do the digital pay on there. We already have the QR code. We have that pay portal. Most of the people do use that. The cash is kind of few and in between, but we will have their tail number. If we don't have a receipt on the pay account that shows that they paid their overnight fee, we'll be running that as a budget to actual, and we can invoice them. So at the end of every week, the airport will just send out invoices for tie downs.
Does Vector do the billing as well?
For landing fees. Yep. So they take obviously the ADSB data and run a report on that, and then they build all their invoices based off that and do it automatically. But
In terms of non-compliance, it's probably mostly single prop piston aircraft, correct?
Yeah.
So is it really worthwhile to have these chasing $10?
I believe it is. I mean, that's wholly what's parking over there. So for us, we're already doing most of the work. The guys are already writing down the tail numbers. It's going into a log. It's literally just us logging at the end of the week to the payment portal, see what tail numbers paid, which ones didn't, run the tail and send a bill out. So, I mean, it's definitely worth capturing, I believe. And it's small enough where I don't think having Vector take care of that right now, taking 20% out of that is worth it. So, but essentially, based on your decision today, this would go down because there were so many modifications. this warrants it's more than a 3% change, it has to have a public hearing. It'll be the same meeting as the business meeting with the BOCC. They'll essentially open the public hearing. They have to, it has to be advertised in the newspaper for the 2-week period. People will show up or not down there. It opens, closes, and then they put this into a resolution and pass it. So
Discussion? We like what they're saying. Motion that we accept the proposal. Send it on to the BOCC.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Yes, by acclamation. It was nice for you to work on this. Yeah. This is really the best this has ever gone.
I appreciate us doing it early too, and not doing this at the final hour in May. The fee committee really paid off this year. So yeah.
Yeah, it's just something that I've noticed. Approach you from the south,
Mhm.
to call in and get the airport weather, the 1 minute weather, the broadcast over efficiency. It's if you're coming in actual instrument conditions, it can be pretty important to you. And there are other weather products, but if there's nothing that's up to date like the inbox, and our frequency is the same as the Grand Oregon. So until you get maybe north of Lewiston ways, if you're at any altitude, you're getting LeGrand, and then you get them overlapping, and then
They simultaneously broadcast or you the other.
well, you only get LeGrand for a while, then you hear them both at the same time. And then you get to a point where you can hear Coeur d'Alene a little louder, and you're thinking, is this Coeur d'Alene? They listen and like, no, that was Coeur d'Alene, that's LeGrand. And you gotta get, pretty close enough that, if the weather was below minimums, you'd rather, Lewiston is, a lot of times a good alternate. And you're gonna be quite a long ways past Lewiston before you can get Coeur d'Alene's weather. So I'm just wondering, is there?
So you're not losing LeGrand until like north of Lewiston.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it seems, I don't know what the process would be, or if it's possible, but if we could just make them have a different frequency.
I'll pass it along to Tech Ops, absolutely, since it's a federally owned, ours is a federally owned AWAS. So one thing that obviously could be changing in the nearer future is us actually having an ATIS, which we would have a different frequency at that point. But I'll definitely pass this along if there's something that they can look at. It would be totally up to them to look at.
Yeah, I don't know what you could possibly do other than change frequency.
Yeah, they told 20 years ago, they told us the town saying they weren't interested. Because you can get it within 40 miles, that's the service volume of the VOR, blah, 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 things and stuff. Yeah, I agree. It would be a convenience to be able to do that, but
Yeah, I can add to that.
Change that.
How many airports around here have 122.8?
Oh my gosh. All of them.
That's what I never mentioned.
We'll get- We get Pullman here.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get Pullman here pretty clearly.
You get Pullman, you get Ritzville, jumpers out of 13,000
Yeah.
people. I didn't even know that. I've always wondered why we don't have a discrete Unicom with all of the different airports in the area using the same.
They're working on that.
But here it says, 20 years ago. So.
Yes.
But to me, it'd be something just still worth pursuing to say, hey, we have something that nobody within 200 miles of us has. Because otherwise we can hear their traffic, they can hear ours. But now that we have a tower, that obviates a lot of the problem, but we're still using 22.8, for example, over the lake, I believe.
Mhm. Yeah, north practice area when the tower's
22
cutting you loose.
Sample.
Yeah.
I love hearing, the Ritzville Gimp School.
Out of here. Jumpers away.
I do that. Okay.
I'll definitely pass it along though, Ross. Absolutely.
Anything else on? Moving on to item D, added this one, everybody noticed that, Jansen sent out the email with the new airport metrics dashboard that he's gonna be sending out every month. I found that to be very interesting, it fills in a lot of blanks as to what's going on in the airport.
We just had a lot of the times we get, I mean, we all meet for the most part once a month, but definitely the BOCC, you know, they're busy with their own schedules. Meetings end up getting canceled down there. So we could end up not having an update down there for a couple months. So it was just something that I thought is interesting. They ask the questions a lot, you know, like what's going on? What is a snapshot? So we put that report together just as a monthly, basically, we'll have it out by the 15th of the following month. It takes usually about a week or so after a month close to get all the final fuel flowage numbers, rental car numbers, you know, everything like that. So by the 15th of the following month, you'll get it so in the next couple of days, we'll have February's out here, but just a snapshot to show how many hangars are getting built, how many leases did we process this month, how much fuel did we flow, what were our ops, where did they come from? I mean, we have all those metrics that we can pull into this report. So I told the board that I'd be sending it to them and then as the advisory board as well.
Something I had a suggestion, I thought Gaston about already would be nice to have an idea of how many inquiries he's had in the last month as to folks wanting to come into the area. I know we're getting a lot of interest in the state of Washington now. We've seen what's going on. There's slowly descend to the nightmare continent. We've got people wanting to move their airplanes over here, but I thought it'd be interesting to know exactly what kind of pressure there is on this airplane. If there's any tangible way to come up with a metric on that.
There definitely is. And we can even split it into a couple different categories from, you know, typical like GA type inquiry to
versus
commercial or, you know, larger jets. Yeah.
Like, I presume most of that comes straight through you.
Yep.
If you keep a little checklist on that.
Yeah, that'd be an easy add.
Probably be a little bit shocked from time to time to see it.
Be interested to see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think that's
Definitely.
Other than that, I really like seeing it because it does keep us up to date as to what's going on up there, especially in terms of, you know, it's surprising me the number of operations you get even in February.
Right.
Because I tend to think of this place being like a great, midnight, nobody's out here, but it's actually a lot of times it's much busier.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I imagine during the summertime when Forest Service is going to be kind of shocked how much traffic.
You'll see the traffic, you'll see the fuel flow spike, you'll see rental cars go way up. I mean, it definitely will start to climb as we get closer to Memorial Day. Yeah.
And I thought it was really, illuminating the tools that you have available.
I mean, we have like all those graphics at the end with VerTower that we've had that here. The origins data, that's new. That's that new module that shows. I mean, a lot of people think like, oh my gosh, there's a million jets there. They're all from California. Well, actually, the top 5 arrivals to the airport it's actually Scottsdale, Arizona is our big one. And then the others are, Boeing Field, Boise, and Bozeman, actually.
This one I was really interesting. Shows that tool where you have deeper access to layers, transit layers. That really will illuminate.
Absolutely.
So many
It break
tools being used out there to build the team. So what you had, that was great. And we trying to put together a top level report that just gives you a situational awareness. I think that's really helpful.
Absolutely. Breaking it down to based aircraft versus visiting because it knows our based aircraft list that's updated in the system. So it tracks where they originated here. Did they originate outside of our based aircraft? So
I actually ran a projection and I just like playing numbers and it piqued my interest at that meeting about like the luxury tax. So like from my perspective, I went home and I did that and then talked about that, not taking the time now, but kind of interesting because some of it's a little bit of sophistry, but just getting general projection on what that might look like and how that might shape airport operations and people follow through on that. And it starts with when you projected people of registrants with those kind of plans who might be attractive. So I ran that analysis, took me 2 days, and So I would obviously, like, I'm sure we just kind of like, here's the bottom line projections on what that means, and people that might want to move here from Washington.
Mhm.
To the United States.
Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And what that means in terms of hangar space and implications of that actually material. So.
Absolutely.
Want to exercise.
Definitely.
Anything else? Move on to item 9, public comment.
I have one comment, and I don't know if it fall under the lease agreement or the standards. But if you have a junkyard that's on the airport, maybe we could have a concealed fence where you can't see that stuff. I don't know if you put that into the lease or put that into the.
It's definitely something going forward with any new agreements. If that's the intended use, then yes, there would be some sort of concealing
that way
fence.
you
Yeah.
could Control the ugliness of.
That's actually in the build standards for the county airport overlay zone already. So we can fall back on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Do we vote on this? Or-
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm losing track. Did we vote on this? Oh, we're gonna straight the fees.
Yeah.
Sorry.
You said you voted in favor.
Anybody else? Okay, that's it. We're adjourned.
Thanks, Patrick. Have a good one.
Hey, gentlemen.
Thank you, Frank.
Have a good night.